Hi, hello. Let's do some AI art today. I would love to show you a nice tool that I absolutely fell in love with. It's called Stable Diffusion Infinity. You can check it out in the description of this video. I put the link there. Quite easy to install. I'm running this, well, not really locally. It's running on my AI station in a corridor where I have two RTX 3090 graphics cards. So I treated myself. I bought myself an AI station where I now have local GPU compute. Makes me very, very happy. And by the way, it heats up my apartment. So now in autumn with winter coming, it's very appreciated to have something that heats up the apartment even more. So long story short, this is a web application that is running on the server next door, and I'm accessing it here with the Mac. So Stable Diffusion Infinity uses a very, very nice concept called outpainting. If you remember Stable Diffusion, Stable Diffusion is image generating model. To be more precise, it is text to image generation. So you would usually come up with a text prompt, so some text describing the picture you would like to generate, and the diffusion model would then, from noise, create a picture that fits the description. It's very, very nice. And well, as you might have seen that the internet is now flooded with quite a lot of pictures generated with Stable Diffusion, with DALL-E, with Midjourney, and so on and so forth. But what we're seeing now is something like a Cambrian explosion of AI creativity, because the beautiful thing about Stable Diffusion is that not only, well, you can not only access it online, it's available for you to use. So you get actually the model. When you think about DALL-E, well, DALL-E doesn't give you access to the model, neither does Midjourney. But with Stable Diffusion, people just can get access, like everyone can get access to a model, and quite a lot of very, very talented folks use that model to come up with extraordinary applications. And Stable Diffusion Infinity is one of those extraordinary applications. And what I love most about it is the thing I already mentioned. It's called outpainting. So let's get started. First, we have to set the mood. So this is now an empty canvas. This canvas, by the way, is infinitely large. So you don't have to tell it at the beginning how big the picture is going to be. You can decide on the fly. So what you would do is you start with a prompt. Let me do some clickily on my keyboard here. What about a house in the woods? That painting, concept art, and everyone writes it. Trending on art station. So let's see. Let's do some outpainting on the empty canvas. Just wait a moment. Usually takes round about, oh, look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Tiny little house. Usually takes round about, I would say like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds to generate something. Let's continue with that one. I kind of like it. Let's redo this. Come up with another house. Oh, look, a house in the woods. A house in the woods. So it looks beautiful. This is a house in the woods. We have a couple of tools here, controls. So let me show you one control. You see this tiny little box here. Can put the box maybe here, like moving it a little bit. And now it gets interesting, because the next generation that I'm going to trigger is not only conditioned on the text prompt house in the woods, but it's also conditioned on the pixels that it sees right now. So outpainting means it will paint everything that is around the picture. Gets kind of blurry because there's also inpainting where you have a hole in the picture and you fill it, and here you do it outwards. I think this is the same principle. So let's see. Let's do an outpainting here with the house in the woods. Look at this, continues. Let's go a little further. More outpainting, cute little house in the woods. I always feel like Bob Ross when I'm doing these things. So this I don't like. Let's do it again. It gets a little bit too gloomy, a little too autumnly. Let's see. Okay, now it sees. So now here's the house in the woods. It's, well, decayed a little. So it's more like a, can I say, a lost place. What about a house in the woods? There is the house and there are the woods. What about continuing those woods? Fingers crossed. Continuing with that one. Now it has the idea to add something here. What is this? A bridge, a house in the woods. A bridge. Let's change it to a bridge. A bridge in the woods. Maybe it's going to create a bridge here. Outpaint. Look at this. So generating even more. And here comes the beautiful bridge. Let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. So there's a tree. There's a bridge here. Let's do a little bit more outpaint. Okay, that seems to work. So I'll do a little outpainting here. Let's see what happens. So it gets very serial right now. What about this? A house in the woods we have here. A house in the woods. A meadow. Let's create a meadow. Eine schöne Wiese. Outpaint. See what happens now. I hope that it detects the grass there and then continues. Okay, now it gets quite grassy, which I like. Let's fill in this one as well. The grass coming here in the foreground. Wait a little more. Oh, now it's getting really, really grassy. What about being a little daredevil? So leaving quite some open space here. More outpainting. Let's see what happens. Oh, there's a person, a tiny little person. Look at this on my bridge. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. So now we're even getting those colors. Here, look at this. There's flowers in it. So again, what the AI sees, it sees a little of this thing here. It sees the tree here. It sees a little grass and moss here. And here comes the grass and those beautiful colors. The beautiful flowers with the beautiful colors. Continue with that one. So I'm getting quite excited here. So look at this, all this grass here. Let's add some more grass here. I really feel like Bob Ross. Do you remember Bob Ross? This guy from America who was very famous for his oil paintings. So when I was a student, me and my peers were watching Bob Ross all the time. It was so meditative. So let's see. So there's the thing in the woods. What about some woods? A forest. Let's continue with the forest. So AI is going to see the little house here and a couple of trees. Let's extend those trees. Maybe I will be bold and go in that direction. So now the AI doesn't know anything about the house here. Look at this, more trees. I'll paint. So you see, when I leave out a lot of blank, it gets very, let's say, daredevilish. So it tries a couple of things. Let me be a little bit more defensive, a little bit more conservative, only filling in this, taking into account this whole big context here. That's very interesting. So I feel like, oh, gorgeous. I feel like I'm using this whole stable diffusion model as a brush. So a very big brush, I think 256, and it's painting things that I want it to paint. So I'll paint a little more. So the house in the woods. More of this. And now I go up here. Maybe I'm too, now let's be a little bit courageous here. So filling up those things. Okay, there you go. What about, let me try a thing. Now let me show you something else. You see that now it's generating all those rectangles. So you see, it's more like a pattern of rectangles that I'm creating here. There's another tool that is available, another control. It's where you can delete a couple of things. So you can work with the mask here, remove a few features, things up. So what I would like to generate is that the AI does not know that much. I don't tell it that much because it just sees all those pixels, and I would love to see a pond. No, let's make a lake. a lake mud painting. So let's see, maybe more like this, that it sees a little of the grass and a little of the woods here. Let's try the outpainting. So I hope that now it kind of moves from the meadow to the pond. Now this is very, very interesting because now the pond is kind of hidden. Do this again until I find something that I like. What about this? Nah. Gets a little bit trouble because of the colors here, I guess. That's fairly interesting. Now it's really, really surreal. There you go. Here comes the pond. Comes the pond. It's amazing because we have all those, can I say, autumnly colors here. Let's do a little bit more outpainting with the pond there. So here's the side of the pond. Now it even generates a little grass here, a little island. So Bob Ross would be really, really proud. Awesome. Awesome. No, I don't like that one. So let's do that one again. Maybe I don't show it enough. So let's undo this. Let's show it a little bit more. So that's slightly more defensive. So that it sees more, because, well, it gets more creative when you don't show it that many pixels. So and now I'm trying to show it a lot of pixels. Do a little bit more outpainting here. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. So there you go. And that's now, what about here? Do some little bit more outpainting. It's really, really interesting. So now we need flowers on a meadow, don't we? Flowers on the meadow. I could do this all night. By the way, yesterday I did that. For a couple of hours, I was just clicking and creating more and more art, which is extremely meditating. And, well, it's amazing to see how far you can push the AI just with a click of a button. And I have to stress this, I find this a little bit more challenging than just creating this tiny little picture with a prompt. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the idea that you come up with a prompt and then you generate a picture based on a prompt, and then you either accept it or you reject it, and then you put it on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. But here it's again, it's way more interactive because you can remove things, you can add things, and it's also a little bit more, well, I would say even more creative because you put pieces together. So there's another thing that I'd like to show you. You can also, of course, move the canvas, going a little bit up. And maybe I will manage to generate the treetops. So this is all live, nothing scripted whatsoever. So let's see if I can create some treetops here. And I love like just how it takes all those colors from the selection that I provide here. I tell you, I have a very, very specific idea about where to go next. So those are some crazy little treetops. Crazy treetops. What about this? Paint. Okay. So crazy things happening here. Let me do the following. I will leave it here. I remove the stuff that I don't really like. This all has to go. This maybe can stay. This is not. Maybe there's a bug in it. But I'll deal with this in a moment. So now this one is clear. Treetops. Autumn sky with clouds. So now you see that it doesn't see any pixels of the painting that I've created. And let's see what happens now when I do the outpainting. Now, I guess it would create sky just based on the text prompt. No, and it even creates, it's going to be very interesting. I just want to hit a sky. What about just a sky? I've got a little bit too creative here. Just need a sky. Beautiful sky. Now comes the critical part. Can I delete these things? Yeah, let's remove a couple of those clouds. So now let's see if I left enough space. So I can move selection here and there and see, well, AI, please be so kind. I'm going to clean up a little. No, I can keep this. What does the AI have in mind when I fill the gap between the blue sky on top and everything that is below? Ah, that's very, very, very creative. You see that now I'm gluing those things together. So a little sky here, it knows from the prompt that I want more sky. Maybe it sees, ooh, and there even happens something else. Let me continue the sky over here. So just take into account these cute little clouds. Outpainting. A little bit more outpainting here. I need way more sky in this scene. So not that many pixels taken into account. So lovely scene that I got here. Okay, now let's fill in the gaps. Knows from the prompt that I would love to have a blue sky. And here we have something in between. Yeah, why not? Why not? And here's a house. So why does it come up with a house there? Do a little bit more outpainting. Because, well, it seems to be conflict because there are trees here and there's a house in the background. And there's now a house in the background and it has way more clouds in it because, well, this is what the prompt says. This tiny little house here, smoke over there. And now let's see that maybe we find some transition from the blue sky to that sky. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice? I love this. I love this. Okay, a little bit here, a little bit there. So let's move the canvas slightly. Come back to, what do we need? A stag on green grass. Let's see if I can generate an animal. So where would be a good place for a stag to live? Let's make it live here. Fingers crossed. I trust in the process. Look, there's a stag. Okay, okay, there's a stag. We got a tiny little detail there. What about just adding more green grass, eh? Do a little bit more on painting. Oh, boy. Tell you, I'm just gonna do this all night. Oh, what's happening now? Let's create more pixels there. But yesterday I did something that went more in this, how can I say, cyberpunkish direction, a lot of fantasy in it. Very, how can I say, neon, textural, and boy, I will have it printed. So I created a huge picture, what was it, 5,000 by 3,000 pixels, just with this process in a couple of hours. And this morning I submitted it for printing, so I'm going to hang it on the wall. So I'm very, very looking forward to that. Very looking forward. So now let's see what happens. I can also remove the prompt and let the AI just decide by itself what to add here. So just by the things that it sees around it. Do a little bit more outpainting here. I'm always curious. And that's a beautiful thing that usually happens. When you allow it some room, it will do very fancy things. Not really accidents, not really mistakes, not really errors, but it gives usually some surprises, which I really, really love. Do a little bit more outpainting here to finish up this tiny little session here. So, well, let us have a look around. Let's go back to the tool here. So this is outpainting with stable diffusion. So I created, well, I'll say a lovely landscape. It's, well, I would say semi-surreal. There are a couple of things that don't really make sense. It's a little bit dreamy, but there are quite a lot of things that make sense on their own. What I found out when I started working with that is that you can actually tell stories with the whole thing. Like you have different parts of the picture that allow for different kinds of I'll say interpretations. You can put quite a lot of accents here and there. It's quite a nice process. But well, what you need is some GPU power somewhere. And boy, I'm very, very curious as well. This is 2022, almost the end of 2022, where we now see this explosion of creative AI. And I would love, I'm extremely curious how these things are going to look like next year or maybe 5 years down the road. Well, that said, tiny little introduction to Stable Diffusion Infinity. Again, the link is in the description. I would be very happy if you would subscribe to my channel. Of course, like this video and the picture. And if you have any questions or any comments, please share them in the comments section. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.